Bitcoin just hit $42,000. Now, I told you guys way down lower that we would see the markets go higher before we saw them go lower. Are we going to go higher or lower? Watch this video and find out.
Fat kiddo, fat kiddo.
All right, so we can look at Bitcoin's chart. Let's start there. Let's see where we're going next. So as you can see, we broke out at that $40,500 level I've been talking about since last week. What would normally happen next? Well, generally we would retest that level, which has been here, and we'll go scroll out of here for a very, very long time since last cycle, where we've seen, and I'll just zoom in here a little bit so you can see that we've held that level and used that level as support, as resistance, as support, as resistance, which is called what I talked about in the last video, an SR level, a support and resistance level, where it flips back and forth. Generally, that's a very strong level, and when we rip through it like we have, usually we come and retest the level. So what happens next when we have a breakout of a level? You guys have seen that I was talking about we kept testing and testing and it became weaker and weaker. And then I talked about this, we're gonna have that big boner candle and we're gonna rip through. And that's exactly what we did, but we didn't just rip through 38, we ripped through over the weekend 40,500 and actually tapped 42, which is another level I don't have printed on my screen because I personally think that we would be going next to 44 after breaking 40,500. So generally what happens next, I'm gonna draw this out for you so you guys can all see. Generally, we would come from up, retest the level at 40,500, and then we would continuation up over to 44. Now, I don't think the market is done pumping just yet. Christmas time is generally a time where the market pumps into it and a little bit after it, and then in January, we see that pullback. So let's keep in mind those things are definitely gonna likely happen, so we have to plan for that scenario. We also should plan if we lose 40,500 that we could potentially be buying 38,000 because we just ripped through and we never retested that level. So another option that could happen is that we come all the way back down, retest that level, and then we go on and try to break 40,500 yet again. More likely, we're gonna come down to this 40,500 level, and then we're gonna continue on, break that 42 and go head up to that $44,000 level. So that's what you can expect for Bitcoin. Make sure you plan so you do not fail. Next up is Ethereum. So talked about Ethereum as well. We had that same scenario. We're testing that and retesting that level. And then we got the boner candle on Saturday, ripped right through $2,130. And then we went all the way up to my zone between 24 and 23.20. What's going to happen here? Probably a very similar scenario that we saw in Bitcoin, where we're going to come back down and retest that level. And we may wick it down here because you see there's the Tenkin, and we see the 21 EMA, so it's two other levels of support. So you might see a wick down, a tap off that level, and then continuation up on the close. So what that means is that you'll see like what you see over here, this long wick. It will go lower and tap that level, which we saw it actually tapped before. We're talking about the same level. And then it went above, closed above that level, and we started to rise above it. Okay, so that's likely what will happen. So we're watching for that as well. Kind of like we saw on November 27th and 28th. Ethereum is definitely looking like it's going to push towards 2,400. And after 2,400, there's not too much stopping us going to 2,650. So ETH is very bullish, just like the rest of the market. All right, so going to our hot list from last week. Now, you probably are going, when did you talk about this, coach? There's no way this happened. I was talking about this level in the video. And I said, if we break this 74-cent level, we're likely to go much higher. And Stacks is a great one to follow with Bitcoin. So if you're gonna go into Bitcoin and it's starting to pump, Stacks goes along with it because Stacks is linked to Bitcoin and how it actually operates. So if Bitcoin pumps, Stacks is generally gonna pump. And so what we've seen since the video on Friday is actually the market move up about 50%. So an easy gain if you're just watching that video and you watched it before the weekend. Remember that those moves happened on Monday, they happened on Sunday and Saturday. So they moved and then Bitcoin went and then Stacks followed it right behind, similar to how Ethereum also follows Bitcoin. Another project we talked about, which has already smashed its level, literally after we did the video, we broke out that level at $10, $11, and then it started to run. It ran up really fast and then it came down. And a lot of people would have been scared and just said, okay, I'm gonna get out here because it might go down lower. But all it did is exactly what I just talked about with Bitcoin. When we get those big violent moves above a level, we generally come back and retest it. So that's all that happened. It retested it. And then over the weekend, we absolutely mooned. And now we're at $20 and we've already closed out that trade. So had you followed the risk analysis that I told you, that you always want to have what? At least 2.5 to 3 R, meaning if I risk $100 that I make $300 or $250 on the other end. Well, this trade is already up 3.42% for 3.24 R, sorry. So if you were risking that $100, you're now up 342. The trade is closed and happy days. You just made some money. That could be $10, that could be $30, $34. Doesn't really make a difference. Just know that always this will compound. Other coins we're looking at. Filecoin has had sort of a slow move off of that. We're waiting for it. It's lagging a little bit, but I'm still just waiting for that major coin to go. There are some things about this trade I'm going to teach you that could be a problem. Number one, our Chiku span, our 30-day lagging span. So this is literally the candles that happened on those days right here, back 30 days. What I see is it's almost running into the candlesticks, which isn't always the best situation. We are up a little bit on this trade. So this is sometimes a time where you think, should I close it or not? Then I look at another aspect. I see the Tenkin starting to drop lower into the Kijin, and at this cross, that would be a bearish cross, and that would mean that I would want to get out of this trade. So you should start actively monitoring this trade. If it loses the Kijin right here at $4.40, you may want to exit this trade. This is how you can prepare and plan for the future and making sure that you have yourself set up. Another thing as well, MATIC is up a nice chunk since we talked about it, but again, we saw this Chiku span, the 30-day lagging span, the candles today, 30 days ago, starting to get closer to the candlesticks. And when this price, when this level is below, it's bearish if it's below the candlesticks. So it's potentially a bearish sign. And our predicted Moku, which is showing us where the Tenkin and the Kijin are going, is starting to angle down. That doesn't mean that we can't have an explosive move up. It just means that it's kind of a cautionary thing. You're already in a profitable trade. You may want to move your stop up into a little bit of profit just in case, as a way to protect yourself and to protect your assets, right? DYDX has similar things going on as well. Doesn't have as many bearish signs here as the other ones, but we still have that Chiku span kind of running into the candles. And this is a little bit of a loss if you did enter over there. Generally, you would have wanted to enter lower, but we were showing you where you could enter and what you would be looking for. This one as well could be one that if it's losing that Kijin, you may want to even move up your stop loss a little bit and see, okay, now your risk is actually going to be a little bit less. And so this is how you do capital preservation as a trader so that you don't end up in too many positions and you don't lose, if the market goes against us, too much of your capital. All right, so yesterday, if you guys were following me, we talked about Seed. So Seed's a great project. It was 100% of the tokens are out. It's fair for everyone right now. The people who wanted to sell, you could see in the chart they sold. And then we bottomed out, and I talked about this level at around, I think it was like 1590. I said, hey guys, this is a great project. Looks like it's holding that level. It looks like we're about to go higher. Then yesterday I said, we're likely going to go into price discovery, which means we go higher than we've ever gone in terms of the price at the current level. So which price discovery basically means is like, there is no higher than the price has ever gone. So you start going higher and you're like, where will the project go next? How much higher can it go? That's a great time to be in a project because there's really, you could retest this level down here at 24, which would be a great entry point if you're not in, because remember that same methodology, we break out, we retest, we go higher. That's generally what always happens in the charts. So watch for that so that you don't miss out on big trades that could potentially happen, because from when I called this trade down at 1500s, it's already up 62%. If you put $1,000 of risk, you're doing pretty good. You're gonna make $640. If you put $100 risk, you make $64. But regardless of it, you still would be up. Now, obviously, this is on ETH, so you'd want to put a little bit more in the trade sometimes because the gas fees can kill you. But this is one of those ones that definitely is to keep your eyes on. Another one that just launched their version 3 is Base Token. I'm a big fan of gambling tokens, gamified gambling, etc. tokens. And why? Because those are things that people love doing. People love to risk, to love to gamble. Traders are gamblers most of the time as well. So these are projects that generally do well if they have a good platform. The V3 is a much better version of the platform than V2. And then it's also similar to what DYDX has, which they're doing extremely well after launch. But DYDX does have some tokens coming out, but that's not something I'm too concerned about. They have a great plan. And remember, just watch those vesting schedules so that you don't end up caught. Make sure that you're playing into the vesting schedules to make sure that you make the most amount of capital for yourself. And then also play the actual games, because they have a huge $50,000 pot right now that you can get into. Now, BAZED is about at a level where we're looking to go into price discovery as well. So you see it's been trying many, many times to break this 12-cent range. The second we break that, we're likely gonna retest and start going higher. It failed the first time, but that does not mean it's gonna fail every time. Remember, these things get weaker and weaker as we test them and don't break above. That's bullish, not bearish. This is another project that I've been talking about, and it's ZETA. So ZETA is a gaming project which has no tokens coming out for another 5 months. So it's one of those projects that a VC can't dump on you. They have a lot of bullishness. I keep seeing new influencers coming involved with this project. That's very bullish for me, because I see that there's a lot of interest from large name players in the space. And it's one of those tips and tricks that you start to learn that when a lot of these guys are talking about the same projects, generally those are the projects that are going to do very well in the space. So keep your eyes on ZETA. I do think it has definitely a lot more in it. And I can tell you that just by looking at the market cap. So going down here, we can see the market cap is only 6.7 million still. That can definitely go a lot higher if we compare it to the Illuviums in this space, for example. Even if it went 10x this, it's still much lower than Illuvium's market cap. So this could go higher. Keep your eyes on it, make a plan, and execute it. Okay, so Bitcoin at $42,000. We saw where it's going. There's a lot of breakout and retest potentially coming in. So what can you do? Plan for the retest. Plan for the entry points. And if we don't hold them, plan for the lower entry points that I've showed you today. There's great projects we see, from GambleFi to Seed, which is infrastructure, to ZETA, which is gaming. There's great projects. I'm going to let you guys know about more. And if you want to learn more about the crypto space, about how to trade, about anything, don't forget to follow and like and subscribe to this video so that you guys have all the tools in your toolbox, because that's how you win.
Fat kiddo, fat kiddo, fat kiddo, huge fat kiddo.